and welcome to the Craft and Calling podcast. I am your host, Christine Marie, and I am incredibly excited for today's conversation. We are diving into personal brand. Y'all, there's really a lot of hangups when it comes to personal branding. There's a lot of misconception. There's a lot of fear and a lot of thoughts that personal brand equates to ego. And when it comes to the trades, there's a lot of question of, is this even worth it? Is this even something I should invest in? Why me? And so I am entirely thrilled and excited to have Todd here with us today. He is the host of Bridging the Gap podcast. And Todd, you have done a lot of work yourself to cultivate a personal brand, but you also have led a lot of others in doing the same thing because you know it's more than just having a fun personal brand showing up online. It's about reputation building. It's about strengthening referrals and ultimately allowing for our companies and our customers to really be served. So thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. I'm excited about the conversation. This is gonna be great.
I am too. Todd, there's a lot of myths around personal branding. Can you kind of talk me through what you hear most often from people in the trades saying to you, their fear? What's kind of the misconception out there?
I think that the biggest misconception is that they feel that they don't have anything worth sharing, that nobody really cares what they have to talk about, or they're just showing up and they're doing their job, and just is what it is. It's not super exciting. And from somebody that has come from outside of construction, I've been in this industry for the last 11 years, but my background is not in construction. I think it's incredibly interesting, and there's so much stuff that is happening behind the scenes that people don't get to see and appreciate about the construction industry. And so even just sharing the everyday, what can seem mundane, is incredibly valuable, and there is worth there in sharing that. Once you get past the awkwardness of flipping the camera around and talking,
yes,
there's a tremendous value there. So I'm on kind of a mission to debunk and kind of encourage the trades and construction along the way that no, you have a really cool story to tell. Like, even just sharing the day-to-day aspect of it is awesome.
Yeah, it's almost like when we're so close to something, it's hard to really see the value of what we bring.
For sure. And and there's one of the things that I like about construction is that there is this kind of natural humility of people that are in the trades, especially, that there's they're not in it for the glory. They like the pride of saying, hey, I built that, and look at this building that I just did, which is super cool. But they're not really in it for the to have their name up on the building and to put all the spotlights on me and say, look at me, which is great. But with that humility, kind of the negative aspect of it is almost a putting of down of the worth that is there. And so I think just being willing to say, no, this is really cool. I have a great story to share here, and start telling that, because there's so much confusion and misconception of what construction actually is in today's world, that we have to really push back against the culture hard on that. And that takes everybody standing up and sharing what's happening.
It really is something about telling the truth. Like, are we willing to actually tell the truth about our lives and what the construction industry really is? What does it actually mean to be a tradesperson? And what does the behind the scenes allow for? What do you think is the biggest reframe that's necessary? Like, kind of when we talk about this humility, there's always a light and shadow to every quality. So it's like the light of humility is the ability to be approachable, to really kind of really serve. But then the shadow to that is sometimes we can hide. And we can hide perhaps behind the service. The very thing that is the light about humility can also cause the kind of the demise of it. So what's the biggest transition and the biggest shift that needs to take place?
Yeah, this is a great question. I think I go back to a conversation that we had a couple days ago when you were on Bridging the Gap, and you were talking about being brave. And I think that is a really powerful thing that I hadn't really wrapped my brain around until you said that there is this effort of courage that is needed to put yourself out there, and not to there's a sense of like, I don't care what other people are going to say about me. And that maybe sounds like some ego there, and maybe we're talking some fine lines here of I don't care, I'm going to just be authentic and be me. I don't mean that in like the brash sense of how that could go of like, well, I'm just gonna, bulldoze my way into everything and just
Yeah.
blah. But I mean that in like I'm gonna show my mistakes. I'm gonna fumble around with it. That's okay. It's
Mhm.
okay to, stumble over your words sometimes. It's okay to be like, I don't have the answer figured out. I'm just kind of figuring this out along with me. Can you come along, like tell me what you think about this, how can I do better, and to kind of serve in that way and bring the humility aspect of it to light. I think that's how you can, to use your analogy there, kind of harness the light side of humility and
Yes.
bring it to the forefront there.
I love that. As you were talking, man, I just was remembering Theodore Roosevelt's speech. I believe the title is Citizens in the Arena. And there's this section called, or I'm sorry, Citizens in the Republic in
Mhm.
1910. And then there's this one section where he talks about it's not the critic who counts. And I actually just pulled it up while you were talking because there's this passion in his words. He says the credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs and comes up short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming. But who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows the great enthusiasms, the great devotion, who spends himself in the worthy cause, who is at best knows the end of triumph, of high achievement, and who at worst, if he fails, he at least fails while daring greatly. And I
Mhm.
just love that because the bravery and the courage that's needed to show up, I think that and I've done this myself. I'm guilty. I think all of us who are really striving to be the person in the arena, there's a fear there associated with it that once I start waving my hand and saying, this is how I went about doing it, now I've got attention while I potentially fail.
Mhm.
It's like, let me go be in the arena and do the work, but at least no one's watching. And so if people start watching, now it feels like the risk and the area to fall then is greater than if I was to just be the man in the arena stumbling on my own. And so when it comes to that kind of fear of like, well, what if people see? How would you encourage us in that regard? Like, okay, it's going to take bravery to show up and bravery to let others come in and watch me in the arena. But what happens when I fail? Because isn't that how we get to every great success is through failure?
Yeah. Well, you started the conversation by asking about myths, and I think you just stumbled onto one of the myths. That's a
Mhm.
awesome quote. But you said like, if I'm can I be in the arena and nobody's watching me? I think it's a misnomer because all eyes in today's world are on you, whether you think they are or not. Like you are highly visible. It's something that I talk a lot about internally at uh, Great Tech, that every employee is the brand of Great Tech. Every time you go out into the world, whether it's on social media or you're, at a trade show or you're at a client site or you're in the, doing the actual work on the job site, you are representing the brand. All eyes are on you. So whether you feel that or not, it's just a reality. It's true. In today's day and age, when a phone is readily available and there's a camera on every single phone and it can flip around, you're visible. Okay, so don't think that you are hiding just because you don't have a camera right in front of your
Good.
face. You're not. You're visible. Another thing that I think is really important to dive into, especially in the construction industry, you mentioned the word failure, and failure
Mm,
is a really ugly, nasty four-letter word in the construction industry that nobody wants to talk about, and so they just kind of avoid it.
yeah.
However, failure to me is kind of a superpower. And
Mm,
I know that's people are probably like, what the, like that's not true. Failure is not a superpower. It's the opposite of it. However, when you can embrace failure and just own it, we're all going to fail at some point and in
mm,
something. It's
hmm,
okay. It's not the end of the world. You can pick yourself back up. You can dust yourself off and you can get back in that arena and fight. And to me, that's
mhm.
not failure then. If you've learned what not to do in it.
Yeah.
You've picked yourself back up, you dust yourself off, and you're willing to get back in that arena and continue the fight. You didn't
Mhm.
fail, you won. And I think we need to reframe that because to me, that's I talk a lot about innovation on bridging the gap, and that is
Yes.
what innovation is
Mm,
learning from your failure and being willing to keep trying again. Thomas Edison has the famous line of he didn't it took him like 1,000 times to invent the light bulb. And he said, it didn't take me 1,000 times. I learned 1,000 ways not to invent the
Yes.
light bulb before I invented it. And I just love that. I butchered that quote, but I love the sentiment behind that, because it's so true. We have to be brave enough to be willing to fail, talk about our failures and say, yeah, this didn't work. Here's why. Let's not do it again, and pick
Right.
ourselves up and fight back in that arena.
I love this. I heard someone say one time, effectively, rather than standing for a golf analogy, rather than standing at the green and hitting, trying to line up the perfect one shot, and when you're practicing, you're taking 500 swings. And yeah, maybe you're going to hit some in the hole and sometimes you're not. But if the goal is, I'm going to get as many swings out as I can rather than I'm going to land the perfect one, man, then to your entire point, it's an entire reframe of our key performance indicators, which is look how many times I swung versus look how many balls landed in the hole. And so I really, really love what you're saying, Todd. And in terms of, this, man, each one of us who are leaders, it's almost like it's the price to pay to be in the arena, the price to pay if we really want to be the one leading. We have to be willing to be seen while doing so. And we have to be willing, to your point, failure. I mean, man, if we could actually mentally and train our nervous system, this is something just to get a little bit existential, but also highly practical. We actually have to retrain our nervous system to think of failure as a dopamine hit. Man, I just took a
For
swing.
sure.
Look how good I did. Because otherwise, our bodies are actually going to be preventing us from doing that which it takes to then fail and learn, okay, there's reason number 52 of how not to make a light bulb, or 152, 900.
Yeah, not get discouraged about it.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's almost,
Yeah.
I actually was thinking about this as I was going to bed last night. So I love this, where we're heading with this. I just was thinking, if we at 16 years old, 18 years old, 20 years old, we're learning at our core how to rate success. Let's say take cold calling, for example. And we were told, I want you to get 50 no's and 2 yeses. For every no we'd get, it'd be like, sweet, check, check, check. Here's all my 50 no's, because I was supposed to get 50 no's. So I'm actually succeeding in the 50 no's. And then I got my 1 or 2 yeses. But we are
Yeah.
told, go out and get 2 yeses. And then we get all these no's and we're like, what is wrong? What's going on? But that's the reality of the thing. So what are your thoughts in that regard of how do we effectively set the expectation and frankly retrain? Like, what are some ways that we can kind of put ourselves into the arena and intentionally fail so that we start learning that failure is safe and failure is to be praised?
Yeah, I love that. Lots of things are popping in my brain right now, and as a performance trap junkie, I fall in that all the time of wanting my gold star. I have to preach this to myself all the time to embrace the failure, because my
Yeah.
natural instinct is like, oh, I'm gonna hide that. Nobody's gonna see that, or I'll put a fun spin on this to make it so that it's not really that failure. Maybe that's why I've come to, like the innovation angle of it, because it's like,
Yeah.
no, it's not failure. It's just innovating and trying new things. But a couple things that come to mind. So first, I think that there's maybe some generational thing going on as well. As a proud millennial here, I think that there was a lot of good things growing up of project self-esteem and trying to build millennials up. A negative aspect of that, so light and shadow here, is we don't know how to fail well, and like what we kind of crumble with that. As a speaking in generalities here for my generation here, we crumble when it's something doesn't go our way, and we're like, we didn't really have the cultural skills to equip us in that. And not blaming anybody, I think millennials have to take that on and be like, all right, that's the case, but we can still do better than that. But I think it comes back to having a long-term vision of what it is. So I wanted to pick up on your golf analogy and give you another golf analogy. So I heard the story told a couple weeks ago at a retreat, and it has really stuck with me. Okay, so the guy goes to watch Tiger Woods. He gets tickets for the Masters, and it's the Thursday kind of practice round, and Tiger's just terrible. he's hitting everything wrong. Nothing is going in the right way. And this guy's like, what's wrong with Tiger?
Yeah.
And he's so discouraged because he was so excited to watch Tiger Woods perform
Mhm.
and, do his thing. And he's just terrible. Like on purpose, it looks like just completely going the other way. And the guy that he's with is like, hey, you realize he's not playing for today. He's playing for Sunday when they move the pin and like where everything is set up. And so has his long-term vision in mind. He's
Wow.
practicing with Sunday in mind. And I just think that that's such a great story to have
Um,
for us that like I think Thomas Edison, he didn't get discouraged because he
mm,
had his Sunday in mind of inventing the light bulb. When we don't have our long-term vision and we don't have, hey, this is what I'm aiming for, this is where I'm going for, we don't have that drive and the big audacious goal, it
yes.
is very easy to crumble. When we have that, Sunday vision that we're going for,
Yeah.
we are
Yeah.
able to pick ourselves up much more easier and dust ourselves off and get back in that arena.
Todd, I feel like there's a concept I've heard people say that effectively once you get the gold and the reason why you're here, we're in overtime. I feel like we're in overtime. What you just shared is so incredibly powerful. I got chills as you were sharing because what looks like failure is ultimately
Mhm.
setting us up for tomorrow's dream and tomorrow's vision.
Yeah.
I love that. And I'm so grateful for that because then what it does is that it allows for us to hit those 500 golf swings, to put in the reps, to do the work, to practice, to fail according to someone else's standards, perhaps. But really, I'm training the muscles. I'm actually
Mhm.
winning because I actually got in the arena today. And
Mhm.
so, with that, first off, thank you. That was so powerful. Second, when it comes to our personal brand, it's like tomorrow's vision. So, okay, how can I think the first question is, do we even know what our vision is? Do we have those audacious goals? And then second, really, our personal brand, how does that fit into the overall picture of that audacious goal? We talked a little bit about some of the myths and some of the things that would get in our way, but what are the real benefits? Why should every single person have a proprietary brand?
Yeah. I mean, that's in today's world, that's who you are. That's how people are going to know and find you. So everybody has a personal brand already. So
Yes.
why not own it and then cultivate it? To me, I equate it to kind of what's gone wrong in the construction industry on a cultural level is that the construction industry hasn't owned its story. And so it left it to other people to define it that don't know what it is. If we are not telling our personal brand and we're not owning that and trying to cultivate it, not for manipulation, but just to like, hey, this is actually who I am, then we're leaving it to other people to define who we are and kind of what our vision is. And so things are going to go askew really fast and just lead to some bad places. So I think it's vitally important in today's day and age to just own it and embrace that power that comes with it. And it's kind of claiming your voice for yourself of like, hey, this is what I stand for. This is who I am. Let's go and let's be brave. Let's be humble enough to go in there and say that this is not about an ego trip. It's not about looking for the vanity metrics and trying to follow the likes. It's really just kind of owning who you are.
Mm,
And it's maybe that sounds super going back to the generational thing. Maybe that's the millennial in me coming out. But I think there's a lot of power there in owning your own voice and being in
yeah.
control of that.
I completely agree. And y'all, what Todd's saying is just so, 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 so important. And it's not just for the construction industry. We're learning from the big dogs. Amazon is investing for one of our clients. They were giving their executives 10 grand a month to build their personal brand in Amazon. And Walgreens was doing something similar. There's these big brands that understand the value because people want to do business with people. And
Mhm.
so then, regardless of your B2B or B2C, each one of us does. To Todd, your point, we already have the personal brand. It's just whether we cultivate it or not, because no one else has your unique experience, your unique story, and your unique self and soul, like what conjures your personality and who you are. So it really is kind of that unique story and experience that we have together with the bones of what makes us us, that allows
Mhm.
for this personal brand to come forward. And it's interesting. And I think that when we talk about courage and bravery, that takes a lot of courage and bravery to believe that we're interesting.
Yeah, not yeah, for sure, for sure. Putting on my marketing director hat on too, I think that companies that like Amazon, like your example, that are encouraging the personal brand of everybody they're the smart ones because the brand people don't really resonate with brands per se. They resonate with people. I love that you said it's a people industry still. Even on the commercial side and the B2B side, it is a people industry. And in today's world, whether you like it or not, whether you are a fan of social media or not, the digital
Right.
side is a reality of our situation. And that is just kind of an extension of the personal relationships. And
Mm,
it's not a negative. It's actually a
hmm.
really cool opportunity that presents
Yeah.
us because you're able to form real friendships and relationships and connections with people that even 10 years ago you never had access to. And so you're able to, there's so many people that I've met on social media and online through the podcasts or whatever that I would have never have interacted with them. But then when
Yeah.
we get in person, it's like, oh yeah, we already know each other. This is great. Like there's already that familiarity there because we have that digital presence together.
Yeah.
So there's like that shared experience. So
I love
and
that.
I know that there's the awkwardness there, but I think if you can get past that awkwardness and just kind of embrace that this is part of you, it's not the only
Mm,
part of you. Online
mhm.
shouldn't be the only part of you. Like go outside, yeah, interact with the real world, touch grass
Yeah.
to use the expression. Uh,
Yeah.
but it is a part of you, and it's just another lens to look at that I
Yeah.
think is super important.
That's so good, Todd. And I'm thinking about, y'all, when it comes to the real core benefits, another one is to, you mentioned referrals. Y'all, the more that we're actually showing up on our personal accounts, the more we're reminding people, hey, by the way, we're here. And then potential referral partners could come in. Our 100-year family painting business, I've been posting on my social, and a guy from 2 years ago that I met, because he's seen me consistently on LinkedIn, he had a referral partner who added a huge opportunity to the painting business. So yes, we're B2B in terms of working with our referral partners, but then we're also B2C. And
Mhm.
so that's why we're showing up. It's to really remind people who we are and capitalize on our legacy. Todd, we
Mhm.
talked about this a little bit last week or earlier this week. If we're posting, we're showing up, we're effectively leaving behind breadcrumbs about who we are and what we care about for our families, for the business to continue. And it also helps with exit. If your vision, big audacious vision, is to exit or sell, the legacy of the business and the brand, people really take that into account. It's expensive to build a brand. So if you're building the brand of the company bolstered by you, people really love that. And if people have that trust around the brand because of the voice that you're adding to it, that's invaluable.
Mhm.
So I'm curious, Todd, for as we kind of get into this next section of, strengthening our personal brand for the purpose of our team and for the purpose of our customers, how can people kind of think about personal brand to really lead the way in which they show up on a cultural level, but then also for the customers? Where's their benefit there, and how does that kind of touch?
Yeah, I think it's from the culture side. People love kind of getting a peek in the behind the scenes aspect of it. So the more we can show pictures of the team meeting up together or doing something fun together, even on LinkedIn, that's the more buttoned down. I think some of those rules are changing, and we can break some of those rules on LinkedIn where appropriate. It's not Instagram or TikTok, so keep it in the right channel. But we can share those more human aspects of it because when we're talking about that, it's an extension of ourselves. That's true, and that is our real self that we're bringing out, and part of our real self is experiencing these fun culture events like at Great Tech. About every other month we do these kind of funny lighthearted culture themes. And I think it's really important to have those, bonding moments and just fun experiences. So a couple weeks ago, we did again, my millennial self here, we did a Saved by the Bell theme day and like went retro and
Fun.
went back to high school. And so my Sunday vision as my middle school self was to be Zach Morris. And so a couple weeks ago, I got to embrace my Zach Morris and show that, and then share those pictures and
I
just have
love
fun
that.
and laugh with each other. And people on the team love it. But then when you're showing that out, it really resonates and like kind of completes the company brand as well too, because it shows the company as a place that cares about people, invest in their employees and their teams, and it's a fun place to be. I talk a lot with my team about we're going to take the work that we do seriously, but we don't have to take ourselves seriously, and we
Yes.
can have fun. We can be people. I think you have to be people. We all bring our emotions into work every single day. I have 4 young kids, and so there's some days where I'm really tired. I was up all night or whatever, and that's
Yeah.
okay to just own that, even on social media, to be like, "Hey, I'm exhausted today. We gotta. This is a fact of life. I'm a adult. I got 4 kids. I got to come to work, even when I'm tired, even when a kid was sick all night. I
Yeah.
think just sharing that, it's kind of going back to the failure aspect in a way. I'm going to try to pull this line through that by showing up and saying, yeah, this isn't going perfect. This isn't going exactly according to plan, but this is real life and this is how I'm dealing with it. How do you deal with it? And, throw the question back out there. You get that engagement, you get that uh, conversation going, and that's
Mm,
what builds relationships. Social is not really different than a real life interaction. It takes asking the question. It takes showing up and kind of going deep and diving into things that aren't just always sunshine and rainbows all the time. And we have to talk
yeah.
about real things in construction. There's a ton of real heavy things that are going on in the industry that we can't just push off on the side. We got to talk about, whether that be in person or in online with your personal brand there.
Mm-hmm. I really appreciate and value what you say. I love the element of really leading on in your community and in your team, but then you can do that online too. And that's an example to other leaders. It's an example to your team of, hey, this is how much I love you guys. I'm actually going to curate these environments, but then also share the information about it. And I think
Mhm.
everybody loves feeling kind of pumped up a little bit on social. I think every one of the employees gets a kick out of it. A lot of our clients, actually, their top engagers are their team on social. So there's something about that in terms of just really reinforcing our own internal culture through posting and really letting folks know just how much we appreciate and value them. But then second, there are other leaders watching. And so what you're doing to care for your team you can lead by example just by sharing about it. So
Sure.
I really appreciate that perspective. The other element that I really am excited about, you talked a little bit about this on Tuesday, and you brought it up a little bit today about how there's a huge gap in the workforce when it comes to construction. There's a
Mhm.
lot of need for people to step in and the next generation to come and fill this gap. But if other people are telling the story about construction, they're probably being fed misinformation. So, can you talk a little bit about that just to kind of wrap us up here about the value of reframing it and us being in control of the narrative of what's really going on? And ultimately, it's protecting the truth.
Yeah. Yeah. This is something that I've talked a lot about over the years of this marketing problem in construction. And, admittedly, I'm biased. I'm marketing is my background. So I look at the world through a marketing angle. But I think it comes back to the storytelling aspect for sure, that we have to share what's going on the job site, the good and the bad, and the technology that is in construction as well too. I think the more people can see that, you start showing them and their eyes light up. It's been a funny experience. I've been hosting Bridging the Gap for 6 years. Okay. And we talk pretty exclusively about the technology and the innovation that's happening in the construction industry. And so when I go and I tell people that I host this construction tech podcasts that aren't in construction, they're like, well, that has to be the world's most boring podcast. Like, what tech are you talking about? And I just laugh at them every time because it's like, you don't even know what is out there. Like, there is so much just really cool stuff. I mean, from the modular construction side where they're having this
Mm,
whole big factory and they're building a building inside a building and then they're assembling it like Legos
yeah,
when they get to the job site. That's just really cool to me as a Lego lover kid. That's cool that the world is coming to that, and it's really expanding into that. Or the robots that are going out, and the little Spot robot dog that was
yeah,
a couple years ago was like, what is this? And now it's like, wow, this is it's really useful and practical. So I think being able to share that, that's what's going to really resonate too with the younger generations, because they see it everywhere else in their life. And so if their view of construction is, "Oh, why am I going to go to this industry that's outdated and backwards and doesn't have tech?" That doesn't make any sense. So we have to share it because it's here. There's a lot of progress that we can do in it and a lot of movement that we still have to do, but it's here in the industry. We just have to be the ones to go out and share it. So that is as simple
good.
as turning your camera around and just showing it and showing up to really communicate what that is, and that construction isn't the stereotype that people might think it is. So we got to do some myth busting there for sure.
I love it. Myth busting. I love this. Todd, thank you so much. I'm so grateful for this conversation. Man,
Yeah, likewise. Thanks for.
we talked about so many important aspects. Anything else that you would add before we jump off that I haven't asked you?
Oh, good question. I just want to send an encouraging note to end it. Construction, super cool industry. Check it out. There's so much happening in here, and the opportunities are endless. And then from the personal brand side, I love the analogy of the arena. So I just encourage everybody to own it, be brave, dust yourself off. It's okay. It's okay to feel awkward about it. Everybody does. I've been doing it for years now, and it's still kind of awkward sometimes when you flip up the camera and you're like, what am I going to say right now? And that's okay. Just embrace it, go through it. And finally, the last point is make sure you have that Sunday vision in mind, that's what you're aiming for. So keep at it.
Wonderful. Todd, thank you. Y'all, this is why we post on social. Let's be in charge of the story and let's be in charge of the truth about what's really going on for the sake of our business, our growth, for the sake of our team, our customers, and also for the next generation. They need to know, and we really, really need them too. So, Todd, thank you, my friend. It was wonderful to see you.
Yeah, great to see you. Thanks, Chris.